Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Line of Scrimmage. A little throwback from way back in the day. This is the 45 King and Louis, the 900 number, from way back before some of you were a gleam in your father's and mother's eyes. But the gentleman that's in the green room right now, before we bring him on, though, I always have to do this with all of our college football people. This should be Mr. Patrick Garvin, or Garvin, sorry. It's been a long day. Let's bring him on. There he is. Again, that is the Georgia fight song, ladies and gentlemen. Notre Dame knocked the fight out of them pretty quickly in the playoff game. Patrick, how you doing?
Great, Ryan. You doing well?
Doing well. Hope you had a good holiday.
I did. Thanks.
He is the team research and recruiting writer for @UGAsports.com, of @Rivals and @Yahoo Sports. He's author of the books on Georgia football at the FWAA, which would be the Football Writers Association of America. He is a member. Okay, let's get right into it because I know you got limited time. The playoff game. I don't think I've ever seen that I can remember. Maybe going back to the first half of the Alabama game, Georgia getting manhandled like they did. I know Carson Beck was a huge deal, him not playing, and I know that kid is his first start. It was a hard spot to be starting, but Georgia's defense played well enough. But my God, did their offensive line get manhandled?
Yeah, it was certainly an issue, and an issue that I didn't foresee. I mean, I really thought that Georgia would handle Notre Dame. In fact, I was surprised that Georgia was an underdog, Ryan, to be quite honest. But I shouldn't have been surprised. I mean, this is one of the most inconsistent Georgia teams I can remember in a long time, and again, they were, they kind of brought that type play, that inconsistent play, especially along the offensive line, like you mentioned, against Notre Dame, a team that, you really needed to have a good showing from your offensive line. And yeah, they, as you mentioned, Georgia just struggled to move the ball. But yet they, their defense played well enough, but they to keep Georgia in the game, and a few plays went against Georgia, turnovers, kick return for a touchdown, and just like that, Georgia's season ends.
I mean, looking at the team stats, I mean, Notre Dame didn't turn the ball over, which helped. I mean, Georgia turned it over twice, but
two critical
yeah.
fumbles. Yeah.
I mean, Notre Dame ran it for 154. They don't pass it a lot anyway, but I mean, Georgia held them in check in the passing game. But Georgia only ran the ball for 66 yards. And when you have a quarterback that's making his first start in the game of this magnitude, you have to be able to run the football, Patrick. And again, Notre Dame's defense basically came out and said, you are not going to run the football on us. The young quarterback's going to have to pass the way to victory. And it worked out well for them.
Yeah, and Gunnar Stockton, the quarterback making his first start that had to come in against Texas in the second half and led Georgia to a win. He actually played pretty. I mean, if you look at the numbers, he's 20 of 32 or 34 or something for 234, one touchdown, no interceptions. If you would have shown me that at the beginning, without telling me who won, I would have said, yeah, I told you Georgia was going to win, right? However, like I said, he had a critical fumble, which directly led to a touchdown. And in the end, though, it wasn't Gunner's fault at all. Like I said, like we talked about, it was, if anything, it was more so the offensive line's play.
Is it safe to say that the ETN experiment didn't work out too well?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's coming back. to
Mhm.
Georgia. So he will be there for 20. So I think it's still, we don't know yet. I mean, I think didn't work too well. Is kind of strong. I think at this point we're still. I mean, he's a talented back. I mean, he showed that in several games. So if he can stay healthy, he could be a valuable weapon for Georgia in 2025. They're going to need him. I mean,
Yeah.
to be quite honest.
When I go back and look at the season stats, I mean, Georgia still had a top 30 defense. I think they were ranked 30th nationally from what I'm seeing here. But their offense really took a step back. Carson Beck really struggled at times this year, Patrick, with the interceptions and whatnot. He's gone. Um, Gunnar Stockton obviously seems to be maybe the heir apparent. We'll see how the spring goes in the quarterback competition and whatnot. But again, like you and I were talking in the green room, Mr. Garvin there has said that he can foresee this offensive line. It's going to be inexperienced going into next year. They're really going to have to shore that up for next season if they want to go anywhere.
Yeah, and I mean about the offensive line, it was at times very weak this year. Like we said, I mean you can just look at the statistics and
Mm-hmm.
and tell that. But um, you know, when you still so they lose 4 of 5 starters, 2 of them kind of surprisingly. I mean, I don't think there were many people that thought that both Jared Wilson, the center, and Dylan Fairchild would both leave, along with the departed Tate Ratledge, who
Mm-hmm.
declared for the NFL draft, and senior Xavier Truss. That only leaves a one returning starter and then just a few with any starting experience. So there is the thought, well, maybe with some new guys, this offensive line, which was inconsistent often, maybe they improve. But and there is a lot of depth in the offensive line at Georgia, although unproven depth. You mentioned Gunnar Stockton. It's he's going to be in a quarterback battle with Ryan Puglisi, who is a true freshman this year, who we spoke to down in New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell you, don't be surprised if by the start of fall camp, if he's actually Georgia's
Okay.
number 1 quarterback. But it's going to be something to watch. And Georgia can always add a guy from the portal here too. I mean that's an option too. So there's even questions here at quarterback, Ryan. And as you mentioned, they're going to be going behind a very inexperienced offensive line, and yeah, it could be tough sledding next year for the Georgia offense.
So top 3 uh, rankings as far as the what am I looking at here? The recruiting rankings. I keep taking a look at a bunch of recruiting rankings, and Georgia's in the top 3. So you got a top 3 recruiting class coming in. You're probably going to hit the portal hard, which every team does, by the way, at this particular juncture. But look, the recruiting class. You're talking about the inexperience. This is why you kind of play Georgia to play big boy football. The SEC is more wide open than it's ever been since Darth Vader left Alabama. So where are we going heading into the spring for Georgia? As far as I'm just looking at the transfer portal. I glanced over it. Like I said, I see they got Noah Thomas from Texas A&M, the wide receiver. You got the top 3 recruiting class coming in. So all is not lost heading into next year, but there are some areas of concern, like you said.
They're still Georgia, I mean, they're still. I mean, this, like you said, they've had year after year top 3 recruiting classes, and they're going to produce a fine product on the field. There's no doubt about that. I just think there are some troubling areas that, let's say, in the last, 5 to, well, since say Kirby Smart's first year,
Right.
that there's more question marks at units than there have been before. I can't remember an offensive line, certainly under the Smart era, and maybe even going back a ways into the Richt era, that was so inexperienced coming back. Like I said, the quarterback picture is could be kind of murky. So to answer your question, Ryan, it's hard to really tell exactly what this Georgia team, like I wouldn't want to go through the schedule right now and say, hey, okay, looking at this, I'm thinking 10-2. I think it's too early to call that. Georgia still compete. But next year, instead of maybe say competing for a national title, it's more so if they can get into the playoffs or not. It's what they'll be competing for next year. So still a fantastic team, but and all those tough road games last year, they play them at home this year.
Yeah.
So Texas, Bama, and Ole Miss all have to come to Athens. It's actually a manageable schedule. So it should be interesting, though.
Yeah, I mean, they're at Tennessee. Unless Tennessee can prove it on the field, I would still take Georgia all the time. Florida's going to be I hope my Gators are no slouch next year. Hopefully they can transfer that over. And then, of course, game against Georgia Tech. We saw what almost happened this year. When it's a rivalry game, anything can happen. So as we're heading into the spring game, what sort of things are you looking for from now until April, until the time they play the spring game?
I mean, the main thing is the makeup of the team, because we're still like, I mean, for example, and I had to write all these guys down. There's so many comings and goings, but Damon Wilson, who at one point an outside linebacker and a very good one. I mean, he was second in Georgia in quarterback pressures, although not a starter. He's there was rumored he was going to go into the portal, and apparently it's a back and forth thing, and we still don't know right now whether he's going officially or not. So I'm curious to see what this team's going to look like. I mean, it could look very differently come April than it does now. Plus, around that time, the portal will open back up again. So, man, it's another day in college football. Like I said, I don't see how you can write. Well, I've said it before, like a preview magazine. Too early, especially this far out. I mean, there's it's hard to get a good feel on these teams now, I think.
All right, before I let you go, the college football playoffs here. Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame. Who do you have in each game?
I'm going to go Penn State. I tell you, I like all four, and I could see any of the four winning, but I like Penn State slipping past Notre Dame. I think that's going to be a real big defensive struggle, and I think I don't know. I just don't think the Notre Dame's offense has enough to muster. I think Penn State's maybe slightly better, so I like Penn State. And then I'm going to be like everyone else, and I like Ohio State to go win the entire thing. Okay. They may have – I know some people think they could be a shoe-in. Like I said, I could see any of the four winning it, but I just look at their roster and there's a reason, Ryan, at the beginning of the year, if Georgia wasn't in your number one, everybody else was picking Ohio State.
Yeah.
And here at the end of the year, I mean, Ohio State's just got talent, and I think it'll show here at the end. So I say Ohio State over Penn State for the national title.
Yeah, a lot of people think that the way Ohio State's playing right now, with the loss to Michigan lighting a fire under their butts, this is what they've been waiting for all year long. So, all right, Patrick, glad you had a good holiday, and I will talk to you sometime in the spring.
All right, Ryan. I appreciate it, man.
All
Like
right, Patrick.
always.
Thanks for coming on, man. It's
All
Patrick
right.
Garvin covering Georgia football. Yeah, not the season that Georgia was expecting. But look, every program is going to go through it at some point, and unfortunately for Georgia fans this year, Carson Beck looked great at times, and in other games he was throwing picks left and right. So again, with Georgia, defense will always be sound, but it's like Patrick said, going into the spring, and then after the spring, heading into the summer and the fall, what do they do at the quarterback position? Because there's inexperience there. And then with the depletion on the offensive line, with only one returning starter, how are they going to shore that up? Because when you look at the SEC next year, and I will go to the recruiting rankings, Texas across the board has the number one recruiting ranking. Alabama's second, Georgia's third, Oregon's fourth, Ohio State's fifth, Auburn's sixth, LSU's seventh, A&M is eighth, Michigan's ninth, Tennessee's 10th, Florida 11th, Notre Dame 12th. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 SEC schools in the top 10 as far as a recruiting class. So Texas is just going to restock. We don't know what's going to happen with Alabama after what happened this year. We don't know what we have with them. We still know what we have with Georgia. Auburn's trying to rebuild. LSU's trying to retool. I think Texas A&M's trying to retool, and Tennessee will most likely just restock. So when you look at the SEC as a whole next year, I think it's completely wide open. Your pundits and your jabronis and your prognosticators will say, "Oh, it's going to come down to Texas again and Georgia." The blue bloods. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin dips into the transfer portal. They have the 17th overall recruiting class for this upcoming year. So again, when you look at the SEC as a whole, I think heading into next year, if you want to pick Texas as a favorite again, you can, even though obviously Georgia beat them in the SEC championship game. Could Texas be the new Georgia and be the new Alabama with what Steve Sarkisian's are building there? So again, thanks to Patrick Garvin for coming on. This is going to be a short rendition of the line of scrimmage because there's really, look, I would try and go through the transfer portal for everybody, but I like my sanity. So anybody can go to the transfer portal. You can go to your favorite team. Just type in Florida Gators transfer portal. Tell you who's gone, who's coming in. But some news and notes from around the world of college football. Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, as expected, he declared for the NFL draft. And now, of course, my Verizon pad. Anybody who wants to send me like an upgrade, feel free. But he's declaring for the NFL draft. You knew it was coming. So he will probably be one of the top running backs taken. Again, last night, South Dakota State beat Montana State in the FCS championship game. I think that's their 11th national title. Somebody might want to fact check me on that. Jeanty, again, in 14 games this season, which they include the bowl games, which is bullshit. Because if you're going to include the bowl games, then go back to Barry Sanders and include his bowl game. He rushed for 2,601 yards and 29 touchdowns on 374 carries. He was 27 yards shy of tying Barry Sanders. He is projected as the top running back to go off the board in the 2025 NFL draft. South Dakota State's quarterback Mark Gronowski, he has committed to Iowa. He made a visit to Iowa on January the 3rd. He also strongly considered coming to the NFL. According to ESPN, he's the top remaining quarterback in ESPN's transfer portal rankings, the number 4 overall quarterback, and the number 19 overall player. So, Iowa fans, do you finally have your quarterback that at least score you 24 points a game? So good for them, because the whole Cade McNamara thing did not work out. Again, as I was talking to Mr. Garvin, Georgia in the transfer portal, they get Texas A&M wide receiver Noah Thomas. He led the Aggies this past year with 39 catches for 574 yards and 8 touchdowns. The other day, the Bulldogs added former USC receiver, kick returner Zachariah Branch. Noah Thomas, he's 6'6", which adds tremendous size to the Georgia receiving corps. And again, we're only in January, so I'm not going to make a big stink about any of this. Northern Illinois will join the Mountain West Conference as football only in 2026. They are defecting from the MAC. NIU athletic director Sean T. Frazier said, quote unquote, "What a great opportunity for NIU athletics as we expand our horizons, adapt to this new national model of college athletics, and prepare to start a new chapter in the history of NIU football." So in 2026, the Mountain West will consist of Northern Illinois, Air Force, Hawaii, UNLV, Nevada, New Mexico, San Jose State, and Wyoming. Just remember the Mountain West: Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State are all leaving the Mountain West to go to the Pac-12. Which will consist of 7 teams. And I'm sure they're going to look to add to more to keep the Pac-12, albeit with a different look, but to keep that tradition intact. Oregon wide receiver Evan Stewart has said he is returning to the Ducks in 2025. He finished as Oregon's second leading passer or pass catcher this year. So he is staying put, which I'm sure makes Oregon happy. Ex-Washington State coach Nick Rolovich, he loses a suit against Washington State over firing him because he refused to comply with the state's COVID-19 vaccination requirements. So he's lost that suit. He claimed, as a Catholic, this is back from 2021, he was a coach. He was exempted from the state's vaccine mandate, but his exemption request had been denied. So there you have it. As I take a look at the college football semifinals here, again, it will kick off Thursday, 7:30 on ESPN. The Penn Staters play the Notre Damers. Patrick Garvin, my guest, he is taking Penn State based on the fact that he thinks that Penn State's offense is a tad better than Notre Dame's. It remains to be seen if Penn State's Abdul Carter is going to play. I haven't really seen any updates. It just says that he's doing everything he can. I mean, if he cannot play on the defensive side of the ball, look, both Both these teams play solid defense. They both run the football really well. They don't pass the ball all that well. It's just this game is going to come down to turnovers and special teams. This will be in the Orange Bowl, by the way, down there in Miami. I've gone back and forth on this game the whole time. I know I'm going to piss Penn. I mean, it doesn't matter what fan base I piss off. I'm going to piss them off, whoever I pick. I am going to go with Notre Dame because I liked what I saw out of them against Georgia. Came in with a plan. They stuck to it. They really took it to Georgia defensively, put the pressure on. I'm not saying Penn State can't handle that pressure, but no Abdul Carter, if he cannot go for Penn State defensively, I'd give the slight edge to Notre Dame. Again, both teams run the ball effectively. That's their bread and butter. Run the ball, play defense. I just think Notre Dame by a field goal. And then in the Cotton Bowl Classic on Friday, this will be at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. Texas against Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl indoors, I believe. Look, Texas struggled with Arizona State. They jumped out to the lead. Arizona State came back. Texas beat Clemson, but it was a competitive game up to a certain point. Texas is going to hear all the noise. Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State. I think Texas makes it competitive for a half. I just think Ohio State finds a way in the second half to pull away from Texas. So I'm going to have Ohio State and Notre Dame in the championship game. I will not pick that game until we get to January 20th. So those are my picks. If we want to go to other college sports, what the hell? Let's do this. The collegiate men basketball. Top 25 games tonight. Right now in the first half, number 8 Florida is taking on number 1 Tennessee at home. They're up early, 18-6. Pitt is at number 4 Duke right now. That's in the first. It's 18-14 Duke. In the first, number 6 Kentucky is up on Georgia 23-21. Also in the first, Arizona is up on number 21 West Virginia 27-20. At 8 o'clock, Utah travels to 3 Iowa State. Georgetown travels to number 7 Marquette. Number 2 Auburn travels to take on Texas. Number 14 Mississippi State travels to take on Vanderbilt. Number 24 Michigan travels to take on number 22 UCLA. Number 25 Utah State is at San Jose State. The women's top 25 today. One game. In the second period, number 1 UCLA all over Purdue 37-15. Trying to look over some other news and notes from the world of college athletics. So that will bring you up to date on all the college stuff. Again, if you want to look at the transfer portals, on3.com, you can just type in your team, and you can bring up the comings and goings of the players on the football team and whatnot. You can even look at the basketball. You can look at whatever you want to. Football, basketball, baseball, yada, yada, yada. So, enjoy the games on Thursday and Friday. Again, light day in the world of college football as far as news and notes and whatnot. So, I will see everybody tomorrow. Oh, and I have to bring it up because I don't want to forget anybody because I'm getting older and tend to forget a lot. So, on tomorrow, the locker room. Coming on at, I'm just trying to get it down here. Jeff Wald will be on tomorrow. Talk to him about the Vikings. Talk about all the Minnesota. Well, the Wild. Forget about the Twins right now. We'll talk about the Minnesota Vikings. What he thinks about the playoff game. We'll also talk about the Gophers football team. We'll also get into hockey and whatnot. So he'll be on 8 o'clock to talk all things Minnesota. And then at 7:30, so he'll be on at 7:30. Jacob Christner, he will be on. Yes, he will be on. We'll talk about Chicago, where the Bears go from here. Maybe we'll get into a little college with him as far as Illinois and Northwestern college football. Maybe talk about obviously Dub Bears, maybe doubles. Talk about my shitty Blackhawks. So again, Jeff Wald will be at 8 o'clock. Jacob Christian will be at 7:30. So I hope to see you tomorrow. A lot to talk about. Again, let's play a little 45 King and Louis with the what's the 900 number. I will see everybody tomorrow. You stay warm. Practice compassion. Practice empathy. Have passion for what you do. Tell somebody you love them today. Hug somebody today. It might make their day. I will see everybody tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.